Hello, this is Nathan Beverly, and welcome to Call for Salt. If you haven't had a chance to check out my channel, I recommend that you look through my videos and just see what this is all about. In a nutshell, my channel is about Christians being called as the church, as especially the evangelical church, how we are called to be the salt and light in our culture, especially the American culture, our context that we're in right now, and not being afraid of the dirty word politics. Because sometimes in history, Christians are called even more, especially in America, where our system is of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are called to have a voice in politics because politics will decide not only our lives, but the lives of our neighbors. And oftentimes it will make a real difference with how the gospel can go out and how the gospel can be buttressed and strengthened through us being salt and light in our culture. So if you haven't had a chance to look through it, I have my story, kind of what kind of prompted me to start this, kind of go all the way back to the beginning of my videos. You can look at that, or you can look at any of my other videos. I deal with Big Eva. I deal with the political developments. I deal with what our call is, what are the importance of the issues themselves. And today I want to deal specifically with the assassination, the attempted of, thank God it's not the actual assassination, but the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. When I first heard about it, I was completely shocked. I know where I was. I think we all know where we were when we first heard it. And I was just freaking out, to be honest. I'm human. I wasn't trusting God, I guess, in the very moment when I heard it. And I read an article. I was at a pizza place, and I was waiting for my pizza with my kids there, and I was scrolling down through on my phone looking at the news, and I saw this article saying that Trump had been shot at a Trump rally, and he fell. It didn't really say much. There was hardly any information out yet, but it literally said he fell, and then there was visuals of blood on his face and his ear, and I immediately thought he was dead, and I was so distraught. And obviously, we know that as tragic as this would be for Trump and his family, if this was successful, this would be absolutely devastating for our country as well. If because basically, I believe Biden would basically win by default, and that would be absolutely just horrific for our country. So yeah, I was freaking out, but then I read more and I found out he was okay. But there are some amazing things that are coming out of this. And I know if you've been following it at all, you probably know some of these things. But my goodness, I think his hand was intervening in that. Trump's even giving credit to God. A lot of people are giving credit to God. That came so close, within probably a centimeter from killing him. Where that bullet just went right through his ear, the end of his ear. And just the way that happened, there are some amazing things. And there's four things I want to bring out that I think will encourage you. If you are a loving American, if you're a Christian that sees the importance of Trump being elected, I think you're going to see, I mean, even if you're not, maybe you can see some encouraging things through this. Even if you've never been crazy about Trump, and maybe if you weren't even kind of on the fence whether you're going to vote for him or not because you just can't stand his rhetoric or his personality or character or whatnot. Let's consider these things because I think you're going to be encouraged. First of all, the first thing that I noticed that I was thinking about was that it's going to unite the country. Now when I say unite the country, I mean unite most people in the country. There are always going to be the people, the hard left, that are just going to be just angry. They're actually probably deep down inside, and some of them out in the open are wishing that he actually was assassinated, that actually was successful. Some people actually, you look at some of these libs of TikTok or whatever, some other people, they're actually coming out and saying that. But at the end of the day, it will unite most of the country. It will unite. Now, I know even the Democrats are out there saying, oh, yeah, we need to unite. Biden's saying that. Oh, we need to lower the temperature, and all of us have problems in that, and we need to stop. Well, yeah, it does happen on both sides. I'll be to be completely honest. But the difference between the right and the left is that the left um, does it a lot more, for one thing, but when the right is a lot closer to the truth when they say, "Hey, these are communists over here." Now, sometimes they're not literally communists, and that's a communist, but and they're not maybe they're not that radical, but they're very close. They're very extreme. People like Antifa and other people who would like to completely just do away with this nation as we know it, and bring in a socialist state, basically. I mean, these are socialists. Many of them are straight up. They call themselves socialists, and I mean, that just heads towards communism. But the left has been saying things for years that would divide the country. So I don't when I see the Democrats come out and say, "Oh, we need to unite," I'm not talking about that kind of uniting. I'm not talking about a superficial uniting to try to get us all to get along and hopefully, it can make Biden look just as good as Trump. No, I'm talking about uniting on what's good for this country, uniting on the message that Trump and the Republicans are putting forth. Strong borders, America first, protecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, protecting people, protecting lives. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And yes, lower inflation, better economy, those things come along with it. But the fundamentals, the number one issue, in my opinion, is really the most urgent issue right now for our country is the border. I mean, the whole third world basically is pouring over our border, unchecked, allowed by the Biden administration, encouraged by the Biden administration. And it is literally destroying our country through fentanyl, terrorist threats, sex trafficking, children, women, sex trafficked. How horrible! How horrible! Can't we all unite on these things? Loving our neighbor is having a strong border. That loving our neighbor is standing up for the helpless and the hopeless, the babies in the womb, standing up for you know just protecting the weak and through stopping the drug flow, stopping the crime, standing up against that, having common sense laws again in this country. These are things that need to happen, not throwing our money away into Ukraine and billions of dollars that are just going down the toilet, that are not really making a real difference, and are not, well, we could be protecting our own nation, building up our own military to be safe against the threat of China, which is a major threat against our own homeland. All of that. There's so much protecting our children in schools from this LGBT agenda and the drag queen story. You can go on and on and on. That's protecting the innocent, protecting people. That's loving our neighbors, right? Can't we all unite on these things? Can't we all jump on board of that agenda? So when Trump raised that fist when he had that iconic moment, because of God, it's uniting people. I mean, people can't help. You look at all these testimonies of people that weren't going to vote for Trump that saw that and were just like, one lady was like, I mean, I never liked Trump before. I just his personality, his rhetoric, but man, this guy is in it for this country and he doesn't back down. It was a beautiful thing. She called it. She said it was a beautiful thing, and she never wanted to vote for Trump before. I mean, there's people like that. I will give you a story. Like shortly after, on Sunday, the day after, my daughter and I put a flag right up through the sunroof of our minivan. We drove down through downtown, a suburb near where we live, where they were having a festival downtown, and people were walking the streets. And we played a rap song that is very clear. The words are very clear, but it's about Trump and how he's good for this country. I'm not going to give the song right now, but it was very clear and how we need Trump basically in this country as a president. And I put my fist out just like Trump did, and I said, "Come on, people, come on!" And I tell you one thing, so many people responded back with the fist, smiles. When people were shouting, we were shouting together in jubilation because everybody knew what that meant. They saw the flag, they saw my fist raised, just like Trump, and it was It was just I had so much. So we had so many good responses. All different colors of people too, which is I thought was pretty cool. It was just a uniting thing. There were so many people, and even the people that we went through a couple parking lots of Target, Walmart, and other things. People were they knew, they caught it. They were singing the song, some of them with me. Some of them, I remember this one SUV with four young guys, like Gen Z guys. They as soon as they hear the song, as soon as they see what we're doing, their faces light up, and they all raise their fists outside their windows, and it was a thing of beauty. We even had some people that would just like shake their head, but they'd be smiling, amused, and almost a smile of respect because they knew what it meant. And I think some of those people even that might disagree because they were shaking their head no. I think some of those people might even be respecting it enough to unite enough to vote for Trump and unite around the agenda because they know people know what's happened. People know what's come to how this is we've come to this, and they see when Trump went down and he got back up again. They saw that he was, they've heard from the left so much that he's a fascist, he hates people, he's racist. They saw the human side of Trump. He's like, first he's just like, can I get my shoes? I want my shoes. I mean, just a normal thing that someone would think just randomly, right? I got to get my shoes before I go. I need my shoes. Human, yeah, he's a regular guy. And then the presence of mind, and not just the presence of mind that he had, but the courage, the convictional courage, because he really does love this country and he loves the people. Instead of just like being freaked out and like, oh yeah, get me out of here. Let's get out of here, ducking down and just no. He stopped once, not just once, but twice, to say, hey, wait. I want to raise my fist and say it's okay. He said, fight. What he was doing was he was telling us it's going to be okay. Keep up the fight. We're going to keep going with this. I'm not giving up. He's not giving up. How many presidents? He's not even a president right now. But how many people running for president? How many candidates running for president after being everything that he's gone through, and then almost losing your life by a centimeter, would have the courage not just to stay in the race, but to take another, to say, raise yourself up and say, well, let's keep going. It's going to be okay. I mean, that takes courage. That was huge, and it unites people. That kind of thing unites people. It's a heroic moment. Now, do I call Trump a hero? I don't want to worship the guy because God saved him, right? It was God's intervention. Trump even admits that. And many other people have said that. But I do believe that he's an American hero. I mean, everything that he's been through, he could have ridden off into the sunset. He had many moments where it got very difficult for him. The lawfare, the impeachments, the things that have been said about him, and now an assassination attempt. Many moments where he could have been like, you know what? I fought harder than pretty much anyone has ever tried. You know what? It's time for me to pick up my toys and go home and ride off into the sunset with my billions. And none of us could blame him, right? He's given so much, but he's not giving up, even at the point of assassination attempt. So that is, there's some grit there. There's some courage. A lot of people want to, point out his flaws, which he has a lot of flaws, right? His character flaws, but one unsung character trait that we need right now, especially right now in this country, and it's needed, for the leader of the free world, is courage. He's got that. He's got that in spades. And I thank God that he's giving us a president. I believe he's giving us this president. I mean, it just looks like everything that's been thrown at him is not stopping him. And I believe that God's going to carry him into the White House. God's got his hand on him. Number two, so it unites the country. It unites the people that are willing to see, what's needed in a leader. And the rest of the left that don't want to be united, that I'm not talking about them, but unites us on the truth and what is needed. Number two, the and some of you may think this is a little bit too over the top, but I think this is a good thing. The Democrats are basically the left, and the Democrats are basically are going to be blamed by default by the average person out there that sees this. Why do I say that? Well, if I've watched a lot of the individual people that put stuff out there online, and a lot of them are like, "Yep, they did this and they did this, and I wasn't going to vote for him, but man, now they're trying to kill him." Like it's automatically a part of the train of thought. They know everything he's been they've done to him. I mean, they all I mentioned all the impeachments, when he was in office, the lawfare while he's running for president, raiding his home, all the bogus felony counts by a crooked judge that donated money to the Democrats, and his daughter is basically working against out to get Trump. Part of her organization is to get Trump. There's so many conflicts of interest. There's so many injustices. There's so many. It's a two-tiered system of justice over and over again. The FBI, everybody, people are catching on to this more and more and more, and they see this buildup. Everything is being thrown at this man, and finally, everybody, it's just the natural train of thought. What else are they going to do to him? They couldn't. He was 34 felonies, whatever. But now that's basically backfired, and people love him more than ever. And so that's not doing what the Democrats want. That's not taking him out. So what else are they going to do? So that everybody's just like, yeah, it's them. They're doing it. This is the final thing they're doing. Everyone's just like, they're just basically blaming it on the left, the Democrats. They're just saying they. It was one kook. It was one crazy person. And I'm definitely not going to be a person out there who's going to say that I think that they set this up, that the Democrat Party or somebody set it up. Now, would I be surprised if that was true? No, I absolutely wouldn't. I don't think we can put much of anything past them. But it's probably some just crazy kook who heard the rhetoric. Biden talking about putting Trump in a bullseye after the debate, saying, "Hey, I'm going to beat him. Don't worry, I'm going to beat him. We just need to put him in a bullseye." Making statements like that, people, maybe he heard things on the, or Joy Reid calling him a Hitler. We can't let that Hitler in the White House. Maybe you heard when Nancy Pelosi says we got to do whatever it takes to defeat him. We cannot let him in the White House. When you make statements like that, what else are people supposed to think? If he's winning, and you can't beat him through the ballot box. And that's probably not going to happen. And Nancy Pelosi say we just can't let him. What else are you supposed to think? It's ridiculous. But this kook, this crazy kid, went out and picked up something from somewhere, got radicalized somehow to do what he did. He was a registered Republican, but he was so young. Maybe that's what his parents were, so he didn't know much about it. But then he donated money to Act Blue, which is a complete leftist Democrat organization, to vote blue. I'm sure he was a never Trumper at the very least. He had to be. So you have one person, but the average person doesn't look at it that way. The average person out there is seeing that this is what they're doing to him. This is they actually did this. They did all these other things, and now this. It's just a natural progression of thought. So the Democrats are being blamed by default, even though they probably didn't have any direct link to this crime, to this evil that took place. So that's good news, because the Democrats they have an evil agenda. Their agenda is absolutely going to destroy innocent people. Whether they mean for that or not, that is exactly what happens with the border. All it takes is one terrorist attack that killed thousands or millions of people because we left the border open. That is absolutely just tragic to think about, just absolutely heartbreaking to even consider. But that's what happens when you don't protect your people. That's what happens when you don't. And when kids are having operations before they're of age to turn into a different gender, because it's pushed on them in the schools, and we're pushing them. We're saying that parents don't even have to. They don't have to have permission, like in California, from their parents. They don't have to tell their parents they can just go do this when they're underage. It just destroy their bodies, destroy their lives. And we're doing this to our children. These are we're leaving a wake of hurt and destroyed people behind us if we go with the Democrats, and so it's an evil agenda. So yeah, I'm glad this is a great thing that people are blaming the Democrats or the left by default, because it's going to make more and more people vote against them. And we need that. God, I mean, I believe God is setting this up. I'm sorry for the light fade. I don't know if you're going to see this or not, but while I'm recording, every once in a while, excuse me, the light is just shining way strong on me, and then it fades back out. It's weird. Um, but yes, like they threw everything in the kitchen, but the kitchen sink at Trump. And then we have an assassination attempt. It's just the logical progression of thought. That hey, yeah, they've done everything to him, and now this. So that is a good thing. You know, they already tried everything else and they failed. And now they already tried everything else and failed that. So they were hoping to have this, but now we see that this hasn't worked because God intervened. We had a breakdown in the Secret Service, huge breakdown. The average person can know that, like, hey, how come you didn't have somebody on every building? How come you didn't have enough manpower? Why didn't they shoot him? They had their guns. They saw the situation, and they were warned of it 40 some seconds or so before he started shooting. Why didn't you take him out? Why did you take that chance? There's so many questions that need to be answered, but at the end of the day, it was God that protected him. At the end of the day, the left needs to be blamed for this. It's a serious, they need to take the blame, because it's just they've been calling him fascists and Hitler and all these things. I mean, wouldn't it be doing your country, if he literally was like Hitler? Wouldn't it be an act of good for your country to save lives, to take Hitler out? People did try to assassinate Hitler, and it would have saved a lot of lives. But Trump, that's not even close. It's such a slur. I mean, I shouldn't say slur. It's such a lie that they're going to such extremes. And so yeah, so that's a great thing. So it unites people through the iconic moment, the fist raise, the courage from Trump, and the left is blamed, and then it highlights and I kind of talked about this before, but I want to park a little bit more on it. It highlights an undervalued character trait, an undervalued strength that Trump has, and that is courage. Everybody can admire that he has courage. Biden can barely string a sentence together. Biden is letting enemies walk all over us. Trump is standing against evil, standing in the gap, and he has courage to do so. He has courage. And having the presence of mind and the fortitude and the thought about the rest of everybody else. I mean, everybody else was traumatized too. I mean, they were freaking out. They're jumping, getting down. But it didn't go. That's the other thing is, those people didn't take off running. They got down. They stood with their president, and they cheered. They were ready to cheer when he raised the fist. I mean, they were there for him, even though they didn't know what was going on. They knew it was crazy. They knew it was chaos, and they heard the shots, and they were there for him. And so Trump had the courage to speak back to the people, saying, "Fight. It's going to be okay." And they cheered their heads off, right? So that courage that you don't see It's not selfishness, like just get me out of here as soon as possible. It was courage that rose above that selfishness. It was courage of a leader that cares about his people and cares about his country. And that's what it comes down to, right? That's what it comes down to. All the bad things you want to say about Trump or you've heard about Trump, remember that. Remember that moment. Remember that moment of courage where there could have been another shooter, but he was like, no, I want to stop and do this, right? I want to put my neck out there a little bit more because it's important, and I let everybody know this, that it's going to be okay, that we need to keep up the fight, right? It's true. This is an existential threat to our country, and you can say that I'm raising the rhetoric by doing that just as much, but that part is true. It is an existential threat to our country. See, when the right says these things, usually we're right. Usually we're right on target, because I just explained to you what happens with an open border. That is Chinese men are coming across our country, across the border. I mean, able-bodied young Chinese men. I mean, come on. What does it take to not see that that's an existential threat? So yeah, it's strength. It's this strength that Trump has, that really just overwhelms and overshadows a lot of his faults, especially right now, because we need that kind of leader right now. He is a literal warrior, right? He is a warrior. And you know what? We are called, especially Christian men, we're called to be warriors for God. We're called to put on the armor of God, and we're called to stand. And it says to stand like men in the Bible. It says to have the courage that we need in the Lord. It says to fight and to contend for the faith. It says, and the whole book of Esther is about a woman who found herself in a place where she had a political influence to save her people. And she had a choice, that she was there for such a time as this to make that choice, to make that influence, to save her people. And I dare say that as the church in America, we are not under Rome. We're not under a dictatorship where we have very little choice or very little influence on the outcomes. We are in America of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we can get our voice out there. We can get our vote out there. And we can be the salt and light to change the whole trajectory. Because we are Esther. We are the Esther of America. We are the Mordecai of America. We need to use our voice. We need to take the lesson from Trump, not be afraid what people think of us. No, don't call people names and be childish like he can be sometimes, but we need to, in love, speak the truth in love, but be a warrior for it. Speak with conviction. Don't hold back when the truth needs to be spoken. Every single one of us can do that in times and places, and especially now before this election. So that brings me to my last point. It not only highlights that third point, that highlights the strength of courage that Trump has, this warrior-like person that we can all be like in that sense. But number 4, it should wake the beautiful thing that we can pray as Christians about is that God would use this to wake Trump's heart up to his need of the gospel, to his need of Christ's forgiveness. He said a couple times that he doesn't believe that he needs Christ's forgiveness. The mouth on him, I don't see the fruit from his attitude. But when he went down on his knees, and when he felt that bullet and then he went down, I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts that went racing through his head. His life flashed before his eyes. And even I don't know how he could not think that, wow, I thought I did this all myself and I built this all myself, and his ego is huge. We all know that. But this could have been taken away in an instant, and I am not in control. That gives me chills to think what he might be thinking, that he is not in control. That this whole thing, that God raises up kings and he can bring them back down again. But God saved him. And he is not only that he saved him because he has a purpose for him, for the country, but that God loves him, and but he is a holy God, and Trump needs to know, he needs to make sure that he is right with God, that he almost met his maker, that he's prepared for that he's right with God. And I personally don't believe that Trump is. I mean, the good news is maybe he has been. Maybe he was born again. Maybe he got saved. Who knows? He seems different since then. He gave God the credit. He might just be saying that because that's a good thing to say and it sounds good and it draws, unites people. But he seems different. He seems different. We need to pray. God's obviously softening his heart. We need to pray that God draws him to himself so that he can come to a saving knowledge of Christ and be radically saved and be the best president. I mean, you take a president that is already an amazing president, done amazing things, but his personality and his character is really bad in a lot of ways. I'm not even saying a lot of his person. I mean, I like a lot of his personality, the courage, he's a generous person. A lot of people have said that. A lot of people are friends with him. There's a reason for that. But obviously we know his fornicating ways and his adulterous ways and his womanizing ways in the past, at least his mouth and his ego and his pride. But God can take that, the man that did a lot of good already, and he can elevate him to even higher by turning his heart around to Christ and saving him and making him literally the best president that we've ever had in history. I think, other than the founding fathers who pledged their lives, liberty, their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor for their country, and if they lost that war, then they would be tried and hanged for treason by the British. They put it all on the line, right? And they were the greatest, in my opinion. George Washington, John Adams, people like that. But other than them, I already put Trump way up there with Abraham Lincoln. I even personally think that he was a better, more consequential president than Reagan. Reagan had a better character overall, but Trump had more courage, I believe, and more fight in him, and did a lot more in a shorter period of time. So maybe Reagan could be right on the same level, but man, I mean, all the way back to at least Lincoln, or even better than Lincoln in a lot of ways. So that, I mean, he could, Trump is unlike any president we've seen in our lifetime. I mean, it's just he's willing to do what it takes to actually help the country, and he's not beholden to anyone, and he's not going to be stopped by corruption or anybody else. He truly loves America. I don't care what you have to say bad about him. I don't think anyone can deny that he genuinely loves this country, and it's the way every president should be. I mean, literally. I mean, not be distracted or drawn aside by all these other things, but they love this country, and that's what drives them every single day. So yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the man. I mean, he's a great president. Now the other thing is, I just want to mention, is that not only should it wake Trump up, and we can pray for that, but it should wake us, the church, up. The church, and help us to for people that weren't paying much attention, or people that were on the fence, or people that even might have been never Trumpers that were just turned so much off by Trump and we're going to vote third party. It'll help them to realize what's at stake, and they'll help them to realize the forces that have tried to take him down, and that God intervened, and that what's at stake means that they need to stand. If you're one of those people, you know how much is at stake if we lose this election? Do you know how much is at stake if you throw your vote away? Can you do that before God? The Bible says that if we know to do good and we do it not, it's sin. Now, it may be against your conscience to vote for Trump, truly, and I can give you that. But maybe you should take a longer look at your conscience and compare it to the Word of God, and say, do I have to, you know, if I vote for someone, is that putting a full stamp of approval on everything they've done? I don't have to go sing their praises. I can go into a private voting booth and vote for them, and not even tell anybody if I don't want to. But at the very least, for the sake of your country and the results that will happen, isn't it good, a net good, that you helped this guy get into office? Because the only other option is to have Biden. RFK is a super liberal himself. RFK may not be as corrupt. He may truly love this America in his own mind, but he's a radical environmentalist. He's very pro-choice. He's very liberal on a lot of things. And no, he's not connected to the deep state and all that, so that's good, right? But his running mate is even far left than he is. So we have got real problems even if he was elected, but he doesn't stand a chance. You know that. I think everyone knows that. So don't throw your vote away. Don't vote for RFK. If you're a Christian and you know to do good for this country, you know to close the border to save lives, literally, could be millions of lives that you save if you help Trump, get elected and close that border. You know, stand against the LGBT agenda that is just ravishing our schools and our libraries and even some churches. This is disgusting. But some liberal churches even hold the drag shows for kids, family-friendly, quote-unquote, drag shows, where they dance in front of kids and wiggle themselves. It's just absolutely disgusting. It's just that's what the Democrat Party will encourage and have laws to install. They'll try to pack the courts. They don't. That's anti-democratic, and we know that. That's for all the calls of anti-democracy or democracy being under attack by the left. The left is the one that always does it, trying to take Trump's name off the ballot in Colorado. You know, like trying to talk about packing the courts, trying to, the lawfare, against Trump, a candidate that's never been done before, to try to stop him over stupid stuff. Just, you can name so many ways that they have tried to take him out and thwart the will of the people that voted for him. Thwart the will of the people that want to vote for him. That's anti-democratic. That's our democratic republic. And so they are the ones that they're, it's just absolutely they're so good. They're so good at, just projecting what they're doing onto the right. But no, like, you have an opportunity to wake up at this juncture when you see the stark difference of courage and a person that truly loves this country. You have the opportunity to vote for him and make a difference. And don't be on the wrong side of history. Don't be on the wrong side. I will venture to say, don't be on the wrong side of God. Because God says for us to uphold righteousness, for us to be the salt and light, to preserve righteousness and goodness, to protect the innocent. There's no other way that we can say that we can protect the innocent if we refuse to vote for Trump. That's just my opinion. If you know all this and you're not just completely clueless about the Democrat Party, now you can have something to research and see if what I'm saying is true. But it's absolutely all true. We need to stand and be counted. We need to stand and be the church. We need to stand and have the courage and the absolute conviction to stand and speak the truth, speak for the right agenda, not be afraid to say that we're conservative, that we're on the right, that we love people, but we are going to stand and protect the innocent. Okay, I know this has been a longer video than I thought, but that's it. I just awesome things coming out of this tragic event, and my heart goes out to the man that died, that was covering his own daughters, to save their lives. You know, nobody should have ever, that should never happen in this country. And our hearts and our prayers should go out for this family and for the other two that were injured. But at the end of the day, God takes tragic things and he uses them for good. And God's hand was in this event, and he is working. Praise the Lord for what is going on, big picture, and may we do all in our power, all that God's given us for such a time as this, to stand and stop the evil that is at the gate. God bless. If you haven't looked through my videos, I would encourage you to do that. Like and subscribe. I would love more subscribers. And God bless. Take care. Good night.